Hello folks, if you remember the previous video we are talking about a project where my client requested for an file upload mechanism and they wanted it to be in serverless architecture running in AWS. So let us go ahead and see how this architecture was designed. So whenever we're talking about a way to upload files and then to store files and then retrieve in a mechanism, we will need three layers. That is a presentation layer where the user will be interacting with, and then a data layer where you will be storing the files and retrieving the files from. And to connect them, you will also need a middle tier or an application tier, however you're feeling to call about it. So all these three components will be required. So let us go ahead and see what are the different choices that we can make in AWS and we can deliver the solution. When we are talking about the data tier, we can use Amazon S3 because if you remember, my client wanted a file to be stored there, or we can consider it as an object. So the perfect mechanism to store objects in Amazon is S3 because you have your lifecycle policies, you have your bucket ACLs, and then you also have the mechanism of hosting them as a website. You can interact them using API commands and then create events on top of them for interacting with your objects. So to connect this backend tier or the data tier to the front end, we will need some mechanism, that is a mechanism to receive the files and then process them from your clients. So for that, what we are going to do is we are going to write some Lambda functions, which will be the secure way of writing and reading objects into our buckets. So this way the credentials are managed in your Lambda functions. That is, no credentials are needed to be passed on to your user, whereas the Lambda function will have the credentials, and this Lambda function will receive all the inputs and write it to the bucket and then give the end user whether the upload or retrieval of the object has been successful or not. Since Lambda functions cannot interact with front-end tiers, so what we are going to do is we are also going to put an Amazon API gateway in front of it. So this will secure how my Lambda functions are triggered, and also I can version control my Lambda functions and have granular control over the resources that are behind my front-end tier. So since API gateway gives me an endpoint, but not exactly the way that end user can easily interact with, because people are comfortable using an web interface and they can choose the input type, say for example a bucket name or an object name. We would need to present them with a front-end tier. So that front-end tier, what we are going to do is we are going to host it in our Amazon S3. So we are going to create a bucket, and which will also act as our static site hosting mechanism also. So whenever a user is requesting for an object, so the request will go through my S3 static site, and then the page will be rendered on the browser, and from the browser the request will go to my API gateway, and from my API gateway Lambda will process that request, see whether the credentials are there, whether the necessary validations have been done, and then it will go ahead and check my bucket and come back. So this is how we are going to give a secure file upload mechanism for our client. So how does this exactly the signing part of this happens? Where does the security part of the file upload mechanism happens? So that is what we are going to see in the next video. How does this Lambda function secure the incoming request, and what exactly is the magic happening in the background? So wait for my next video. Until then, go ahead and put in the comment section how this secure signing happens in the S3 and how that will ensure that users doesn't need any credentials when they are writing to your bucket, which is not in public. So go ahead and put them in the comment section. We will all learn together. Thanks for watching. Happy learning.